Good morning. Welcome to the Muscatine Community School District Board of Education meeting at 10 a.m. We're here at the Muscatine Administration Center for a special session this morning. Due to the recent federal ruling on House File 847, the school board is holding a special meeting, a session to discuss and potentially take action on a change in requirements around masking for students and staff. I would open our meeting and ask our secretary if you would please take roll and help us determine a quorum.
My pleasure. Director Cooney?
Here.
DeBeat?
Here.
Braba?
Here.
Finn?
Here.
McCarter?
Here.
Morgan?
Here.
Sure.
Here.
All accounted for.
Thank you. I would ask that you would all stand with me and join me in the pledge, please. I'd like to welcome our media representatives that have joined us today, and I appreciate all of our audience members. It's difficult to find a time when 7 volunteers can come together on a quick note and put all of their jobs on hold in order to find a time to do that. So we appreciate those of you that are able to join us in person today and those that are watching online. We will open our meeting today with our Citizen Speak portion of the agenda. I would like to share, we know that this is a topic that has strong opinions. I would ask that you all remember that as you approach the podium, that you are kind and respectful to each other and to the board. We will call our board secretary will call your name up. There was an opportunity to sign in. We are limiting our public speak session today to 30 minutes. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak. There will be a timer. The timer will face the podium so that you're able to see the timer. When the timer goes off, your time will be up. Even if you're in the middle of a sentence, we do want to be respectful that everyone gets the same amount of time. So when the timer goes off, your time will be up. When you approach the podium, we ask that you state your name and your address for the record. We'll start the timer after you state your address. Please know that as a public hearing, the board appreciates hearing from you. We are not able to engage in conversation. So we will be taking notes. We appreciate that you're here, but it is not a time for us to engage in conversation. With that being said, I think we're ready to get started. And if you would begin with calling our first name, please.
Matt Miller.
Matt Miller, 1778 North Isaac. These quotes are from the Journal. We have followed the guidance of the CDC and our local public health officials. That's by Mr. Christopher in the Journal that you stated. Clint even disapproved of there being lack of transparency due to both the bill being passed in the middle of the night and without any public agreement. Yet Mr. Christopher is trying to control how much time the public is given to address this issue and move as quickly as possible to mandate masks, even by scheduling this meeting at 10 a.m. when most parents are working. Well played, Mr. Christopher, but not someone I want to make decisions for my children. By doing this, you also quoted, by doing this, the school district across the state are now able to make decisions about the usage of face masks in schools. My kids' rights are my choice, not the Board of Educators. Your roles are truly to make sure my kids are being taught correctly and safe in schools, not because you make them wear a mask. Keeping our students and staff safe in school has been and will continue to be a priority for our district. Another quote by you, Mr. Christopher. However, at the food pantry on 914, I worked closely with Clint Christopher, Tammy Drawball, and Lisa Bunn. All of you did not wear a mask. You did not social distance. We handshook, and CDC requirements were not an issue to you at that time. So this comes out, and now you temporarily say this is a time to step up. Why were you not stepping up before? The lawsuit was mainly brought on due to the discrimination against students with disabilities who are at heightened risk of severe illness from COVID-19. So if not to suffice this due to temporary decisions, it is a personal matter for me that I feel you are pushing. We know you have a disabled daughter, so it is one of the two to make this standing right now. Due to this action, I will pursue each and every one of you that votes for this and does not give us the right for our children's choice to remove you from the board until further notice.
This is a meeting and not a concert. We will not have clapping and we will not have outbursts. If that continues, the board will recess and we will clear the room. We'll try one more.
Matt Bonebreak.
My name is Matt Bonebreak. I live at 26798 140th Avenue, Mediapolis, formerly of Muscatine. My children still attend Mulberry Elementary. First, I'd like to point out that the email that Mr. Christopher sent out was incorrect and misleading, pushing your agenda for this mask mandate. The very first sentence of that email was wrong, incorrect. And the other thing is, none of you folks are pediatricians. None of you folks are parents of my children. None of you folks know what's best for my children. I know what's best for my children. If I choose to send them to school in a mask, that's my choice. We are Americans. We have rights and freedoms. I know what's best. You do what you want with your children, and I will do what is best for my children. Leave them alone.
Next name?
Matt Nichols.
Good morning. My name is Matt Nichols, 1984 Sweetland Road. Just want to point out that coercion is not consent. On behalf of my family and my child, my findings raise significant concerns both medically and legally if you put a mask policy in place. Masks are ineffective for the purpose claimed by the mandate, potentially harmful, and only authorized for use by an emergency use authorization. Emergency use authorization products are by definition experimental and thus require the right to refuse. Under the Nuremberg Code, the foundation of ethical medicine, no one may be coerced to participate in a medical experiment. Consent of the individual is absolutely essential. Furthermore, the mandatory mouth mask in schools is a major threat to a child's development. It ignores the essential needs of a growing child. The well-being of children and young people is highly dependent on the emotional connection with others. Masks create a threatening and unsafe environment where emotional connection becomes difficult. Masks are ineffective, and in many ways they harm. Forcing our children to wear masks is nothing short of psychological child abuse. Whoever votes to mandate masks, you are depriving our children of oxygen and doing serious harm to their cardiopulmonary system. You will not experiment on my child. This country was founded on individual rights as a constitutional republic. We have parental choice to choose what we do with our children, not you. It is not okay to take away the rights of parents who decide not to mask their children just so others can feel safe. There is not one piece of scientific data that proves that masks work. Kids under 25 had a 1 in a million chance of dying from the SARS-CoV-2 virus. I did not serve 4 years of active duty fighting for the rights and freedoms of all Americans just to have you or the government tell me how to live my life and raise my children. We pay your salaries and our taxpayer dollars, and you work for us, not the other way around.
Next up is Derek Lentz.
Good morning. So basically, I'll make this short and sweet. So you guys talked to our kids about not giving in to
Derek,
peer pressure.
I'm sorry, can you state your address for
Oh
the
yeah,
record,
sorry.
please?
My name is Derek Lentz, and I live at 3110 Pear Tree Lane.
Thank you.
So anyways, we talked to our kids about not dealing in peer pressure, and basically you guys are doing the same thing. You guys are giving into peer pressure from the fear-mongering journalists out there who think that we just need to lock down everything, mask up everything. That's just not how it's going to work. COVID's not going to go anywhere just because we're wearing masks. The best thing you can do, just sanitize as the kids are coming and going. You know, hand sanitizers as they're coming and going from class or recess. But at the end of the day, these are our kids. We make the rules for them for their health. You don't pay our medical bills, we do, okay? So at the end of the day, we have the rights, right? So, you know, I just don't know what else we can do to fight back against this, because you guys clearly already made up your mind, right? Or else you wouldn't be having this meeting. But our rights as parents don't end just because of where your feelings begin.
Next is Tom Randleman.
Good morning. My name's Tom Randleman, 2959 Highway 22. Taught in the district for 35 years, retired for now 10 years, which I enjoy every minute of it. I have a son that teaches at McKinley. I have a daughter-in-law that's at Jefferson, and I also have a wife that teaches at Franklin. I currently have 3 grandkids in the school district. I have a lot to say, and I don't have a whole lot of time to say it, and because it should take days to discuss a topic like this. But all I'm asking is for you to really consider doing the research. I had a wife that has cancer. The first thing that we didn't come home and just sit around and do nothing. We did research. And what I would like to do is request from you is to do the research and the benefits of wearing a mask. Every day we have to make decisions. And when we make decisions, whether it's a good decision or a bad decision, we have to make decisions. And thankful, I live in a country that I can make a decision for myself. I have the freedom to do that. One other thing before the time runs out, I am subbing in the district at this point in time. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the district is really, really hard up for subs right now. And I hear the stories from my friends and my family. And I can tell you right now, I'm going to do a long-term sub at Jefferson, but if I have to wear a mask, I won't sub, period. Thank you.
Rachel Rose.
I'm Rachel Roth, and I'm at 115 Sunset Drive. First of all, thank you. This is not an easy time to do your job. I have a list of questions I would like you to address and consider today. Has each board member had time to read all the Citizen Speaks forms? If not, should we be making a decision today? Why the rush? Are we at some crisis point? If so, or if not, the reasons need to be clearly communicated. What approximate percentage of the district are wearing masks now? In Mulberry's 6th grade, my twin boys have reported about 5 out of 45. What about at ball games, meetings, etc.? Please pay attention to what our local people are doing and want. We are educated, reasonable people. If a clear majority of the people aren't wearing masks with all the information out there, we should not be mandating it. If a student has tested positive, has there been much transmission at school? A student in our classes tested positive 2 weeks ago, and I never got another email. As far as I know, there was no spread. What is the numeric criteria we are looking at as reason to implement a mandate? And then what is the off-ramp for ending it? If a building does have a high transmission rate within that building, have we looked at just mitigating at that building and not district-wide? And finally, I would like us to think about who is harmed. And I'm assuming that we would not shut down schools. Who is harmed by not making a mandate? Anyone concerned can get a vaccine, or if not able to yet, can wear a surgical type mask properly and be as well protected as you can be from a mask. Those concerned are still free to do whatever is best for themselves and their child. Who is harmed by wearing masks all day? Those who read lips, young kids learning to speak, kids who are stressed by masks, teachers who can't understand students well, kids with speech issues, students who are hiding behind the mask, and we have personal experience with these last 3 reasons. Students who just need to see a smile from an adult that day, and I could go on. Thank you.
Next is Randy Nabor.
I am Randy Nabor. I live at 402 East 8th Street. As a former board member, we know the responsibilities of the board. And I'm just going to touch briefly on 2 of them. One is that we are responsible as a board for guiding the district's budget approving and establishing spending priorities. We are also having a fiduciary responsibility, again, in the areas of budget, accountability of the school district's expenditures. But probably the least known of those is that they are responsible for maintaining school facilities as safe and healthy places. And it's with that I would ask the board to consider that as you're looking at making your decision. I've heard the discussion so far. I will be honest, I wear my mask in most public settings because of my age and my health conditions. And I understand the concerns of other people regarding not wearing masks. I would like the board to look at mask mandates with the caveat that there are exceptions to the wearing of the mask depending on the medical needs of the student or the educational needs of the student, such as what Rachel just spoke about regarding speech and other types of social emotional things. But it's my belief that that's the best thing to do. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for serving. It's not an easy job. Most times you come here thinking that your biggest responsibility is going to be to hire the selection committee and hire a new superintendent. At least that's what I found when I was on the board. Couple crisis periods. Mine was the 4-point grade system versus 5-point. And as Aaron pointed out a little while ago, the renaming of the junior high. So thank you for your time and your energy.
Next up is Keith.
I'm Keith Duncombe, 2054 Mississippi View Drive. The fact that this mandate is even being considered is absurd. I have a question for the board. Are meals and drinks mandated? Are healthy habits and decisions mandated? I know these questions are rhetorical and probably seem a bit absurd, but until I see truly healthy options on the school menus, do not talk to us about health and safety. It is often said that mass debates are for health and safety of the students and faculty. Everyone knows that this isn't the case. If it were for health and safety, there would be fresh fruits, vegetables, fish, meats, and other items that boost immune systems being mandated, yet none of this happens. Wearing a mask that is subject to heat and moisture all day is just a breeding ground for bacteria. Bacteria that can double in rate every 4 to 20 minutes being inhaled every single day, all day. Nothing about that says healthy or safe. Moving on from physical health to mental health, it's said that a smile is contagious. Having been alive as long as we have, I think we can all agree. Not only are they contagious, but a smile from a kid can be the difference between having a bad day or a wonderful day, or a smile that can change your life. Kids not being able to see emotion on people's faces is nothing but a psychological nightmare. Without freedom of expression, there is oppression. The school board is a body of elected officials that have been put in place by the general public. Judging by the faces of the students, staff, and parents this year, I think it is clear that the majority of the people enjoy their facial freedom. I can count on one hand every day the amount of people that are choosing to wear a face covering. The number is very low. Regardless of a special session, it is abundantly clear of what the people have chosen and choose to do. That's the great thing about this country, isn't it? Freedom. Freedom is a wonderful thing. Kids are going to get sick. It's part of growing an immune system. You have to have germs and viruses in your body for it to do what it needs to do. Germs are a good thing. It's been proven for many years. What isn't is the effectiveness of wearing face coverings. I'm certain this was learned last year, as not much change was made and it had very little effect. We are creating a generation of kids that are uncaring, uneducated, and unhappy. You mask dangerous dogs, not innocent children.
Micah, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last. Thank you. Next.
My name's Micah Anikin, and I live at 1781 Highway 38 in Muscatine. I'm a mom of 2 children who are currently in the Muscatine School District. And when I heard, like the gentleman said before, that we were even going to discuss this, I was appalled that this would even be a topic. With the recent ruling from the federal judge overturning Iowa law, you saw an opportunity to enforce control again, only pretending that you actually care about our children's safety and well-being. Well, I say no. No to mandates, and know that you even care about our children's health and safety. Or you would follow the science. You would follow the science that shows mask mandates do not prevent the spread of COVID virus or reduce the rate of infection as seen in the study of the New England Journal of Medicine, or in similar studies from the Oxford University or even Cambridge University. This is astounding to me because this past May, the CDC actually had a very large study in the United States with over 90,000 elementary students in 169 different schools from November 16th through December 11th, proving that a mask requirement of students failed to show independent benefit. But you didn't hear anything from them, did you? It was hidden in their study. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. Other countries are catching on to this too, such as the UK, removing face mask requirements because they saw they harm children and found that removing them would hugely improve interactions between teachers and students. Pediatric hospitalization for severe COVID-19 disease is indeed rare, and according to a pediatrician from Stanford School of Medicine for Pediatric Infectious Disease, the risk of serious consequences of COVID-19 is the same risk they face from the traditional flu. If you want to look at numbers, you can pull them from the CDC website. 416 children have reportedly died with COVID out of 74 million in the US, which is terrible. I'm not making light of that, but in reference and to put this in context, in the 2017-2018 flu season, which was really bad, the CDC estimates that 643 children died of the flu. Masks don't work.
Ashley Smith. Karen Greenfield.
My name is Taryn Greenfield, and I live at 1710 Westfield Drive. I have 2 children in the school district, and I am speaking against mask mandates. House File 847 started with grassroots, with actual citizens of Iowa from our communities using the proper channels in government to order a bill to be created, passed, and signed into law. That is how legislation works. That law says school boards cannot mandate masks. The temporary restraining order against that law conveys the message that families are incapable of making decisions and do not merit the freedom to do so, and it is insulting. The federal government should not be dictating what we do at a local level. We are all different and we have different needs. It has to start with each of us individually and move out from there to our families, our neighborhoods, and our city, not the federal government. By reinstating mask mandates, you are revoking the rights of our families and our communities to make personal choices for our children. This is about civil liberties. Regardless of where you stand on masking, I support the choice to wear a mask or not wear a mask. Please remember that families in this district come from all walks of life. We hold a variety of different views. We are capable of making choices that are right for our own families, and we have the right to do so. It is your job to advocate for all the children in the district. And you cannot do that with a one-size-fits-all mandate. Leave the decision to the parents. Thank you.
Tammy Holtquist.
Tammy Holtquist, 2922 Patrick Lane. Son that teaches, daughter-in-law that teaches, my ex-husband, wife, who I love, teaches, 3 grandkids. But I'm going to do something a little different because everybody knows how they feel. Everybody already has their mind made up on how they feel. So I'm going to do something a little different. Do you want your kid to wear a mask? Do you want your kid to wear a mask? Do you want your kid to wear a mask? Do you want your kid to wear a mask? Do you want your kid to wear a mask? Do you want your kid to wear a mask? Want your kid to wear a mask? Want your kid to wear a mask? Choice. It's freedom. It's liberty. This is the United States. Those things off our precious children.
Christian Stogdill.
Hello, I'm Christian Stogdill. I'm at 1704 Bryan Avenue. We tell our children they're one in a million with the intention of having them one day believe that, to hold on to dreams of exploring space, running for president, or becoming a superstar. Some of them will be factory workers, customer service representatives, police officers, and custodians. In this liberal society, we find ourselves holding on to enduring freedom. Science has shown that children's deaths to COVID are 1 in a million. Enough to take the fear out of parents and advocate for their extremely strong immune system. Children with immunocompromised immune systems, scientists believe, are even more at risk at 1 in 10,000. We have seen people fight for their liberties in regard to taking off the mask. We have seen adverse reactions. On one hand, to take it as far as to threaten superintendents and principals for taking away this freedom. On the other, we have seen people argue for wanting to see their child smile. I disagree with this order, but I am empathetic to seeing our children smile. Nothing reaffirms the job we're doing that we're supposed to more than that. To see their happiness in our life of struggle makes it worth it. Yet we must not pass on this life-altering odd. What does it matter if we believe they are everything, but they can never see them go into orbit, pass officer training, or start their first job? We have found ourselves with believing they are 1 in a million, but not believing that they could be 1 in 100,000. We will see our children without masks again, but I believe we should see all of our children again, and that requires making them all wear masks. In 1905, the Supreme Court said there are manifold restraints to which every person is subject for the common good. On any other basis, organized society could not exist without its safety to its neighbors. Society based on the rule that each one is a law unto himself would soon be confronted with disorder and anarchy. I believe that holds up here with the current spread of this disease. Please make our children wear masks. If your child was 1 in 100,000, you would care.
Emily Thomas.
I'm Emily Thomas, and I live at 1117 Westwood Lane. I've heard a lot over the last 20 months, but a few things are scarce when it comes to the topic of masks, vaccines, coronavirus in general. And those are common sense and human decency. Here are some facts for you. Taken from the CDC, COVID poses almost no risk to our children. 7.2 million children have tested positive for COVID, and a total of 0.008 of them have died. I'm not diminishing those losses, and my heart goes out to those families. But let's talk about the flu. The CDC estimates over 600 kids died from the flu in the 2018-2019 season, and I did not hear one utter of a mask.
There's more that have died from COVID in a year, or more have died, less than 600. Sorry, I'm nervous. Making our children wear masks in fear of a virus that poses almost no threat to them in the first place, that's child abuse. Making them believe that the air is toxic and their friends are scary because they have germs is a disease in and of itself. It's called Munchausen's by proxy. Look it up. It's exactly what's happening here. You may think I'm being dramatic. I'm okay with that. Have you ever thought of the health ramifications that come from breathing in your own sweat, spit, and dirt? What about the kids that are learning to read and have to see their teacher's face to enunciate the letters and the words? What about our child's developing immune system if they have to wear masks all day, every day? But that's not why you're okay with placing this burden on our children. You're okay with that because you're protecting yourself politically. And why? To keep my kids safe? I can keep my kids safe, and they are safe. To keep the teachers and staff safe, they can get the vaccine if they want to. You are considering putting a mask on my child for a bureaucratic safety blanket. It's a disgrace. You should be ashamed of yourself, and I really hope you consider the alternative. Thank you for your time.
Scott Long.
Scott Long, 2008, Mulberry Avenue. I think with a lot of this, people are prioritizing the short-term inconvenience of wearing a mask over the long-term potential benefit of saving lives. It has been shown that masks work. Studies have shown that if people are wearing masks, there's a 90% reduction in the transmission of the coronavirus. I think the biggest risk here is not necessarily to our children. We may not see a death or a severe adverse reaction in a children in our district, but the potential loss of a caregiver or other family member could be absolutely devastating to the mental health of a child. Thank you.
Nick Doy.
My name is Nick Doy, I live at 1610 Orange Street. 2015, my son was diagnosed with meningitis, so he's immunocompromised. The statistic, I think, is bull. I had COVID-19 January of 2021, I'm sorry. He quarantined with me in my house for 2 weeks, not a single symptom, along with his sister, who's 11, who also goes to the school district, and my wife. If Riker can make it through, I'm not speaking for everybody. I don't have a bunch of statistics up here, but I have personal experience. I also think that it's absolutely shameful that you guys would schedule this hearing at 10 o'clock on a Friday. Absolutely shameful. I think everybody in this audience, I'm not speaking for everybody, almost everybody in this audience has something to say. And I hope that if you guys issue a mask mandate, every single one of you wear a mask every single minute when you're outside of your home.
Josie Cardoza.
Josie Cardoza, 522 Hagerman Drive. I have gone to school here, I've worked here, I've had a couple kids graduate from school here, and I have students that are currently attending. You have said, well, first of all, sorry, I've never felt a need to know who the school board was. I've always thought you guys have been doing a pretty good job until the start of this school year when I was told that I wasn't allowed in my child's school. I couldn't co-visit, I couldn't have lunch with him. For a third grader, it's kind of nice to have your mom. Not my 10th grader, of course, but I knew something was awry, so I started paying attention. I've started watching. You have estimated 90% of your teaching staff has been vaccinated. Don't they deserve the choice to whether to wear the mask or not? As parents, we have a choice. I feel like you are eroding our choice for parents by mandating this. We're not saying you can't wear a mask. We're not saying no to mask. We're just saying give parents a choice. Thank you.
Sonia Baker.
Sonia Baker, 302 Wood Creek Lane, Muscatine. I would ask that the board can not consider a mask mandate for students or staff. I support the COVID vaccine and recognize COVID can pose a risk to both adults and, to a smaller extent, children. However, I feel there's also a real educational risk to mandating kids and staff to wear masks, more so than the possibility of contracting COVID and having devastating impacts. I used to be an early childhood educator, and kids, especially young kids, learn a lot just from the face, how to form letter sounds, correctly hearing words articulated, and facial expression. Speech and sound formation are huge with young kids, and masking makes it a real challenge. If we look at a child who entered kindergarten in the 2019-2020 school year, they missed half a year of valuable instruction. Their first grade year was masked or online, and this year they're in second grade. Their educational experience this year is crucial because the kids aren't proficient at reading by third grade. The possibility of closing the reading gap becomes exponentially harder and also begins impacting other subjects as they are expected to not only be able to read, but read to learn. Early childhood teachers have a lot of ground to make up, just ask them. Mandating masks now will only slow that progress. These kids' elementary educational foundation has taken a huge hit, and it will impact many throughout the rest of their school experience. Will kids contract COVID? Absolutely. Will their contraction of COVID have debilitating, long-lasting results? Probably not. Will masking our kids and teachers cause long-term educational issues? I believe the risk is much higher. All choices we make include risk. I think we have to decide which risk is greater. I've primarily focused on early childhood. I hope as you as a board will also consider other areas masks may pose more of a risk than COVID itself. I would ask you to leave the decision to mask up to the parents who can assess the needs of their children on an individual basis. I have a great appreciation for the decisions that the board has made throughout this pandemic when nothing has been clear. And I thank you for the opportunity for my voice to be heard today.
Krista Finley.
Hello. My name is Krista Finley at 2080 41st Street, and I have 4 kids. Last year, when you mandated masks, my husband and I decided that I was going to homeschool. Due to anticipation of this happening again, I'm homeschooling this year as well. I'm here today to advocate for my kids as we use the homeschool assistance program through the district, but also for all the kids that parents couldn't be here today due to the time that you scheduled this meeting when parents were working. We cannot have another year of masking our children. It's wrong on so many levels. First, educationally, early elementary kids are just learning to read and need to benefit from seeing their teacher's mouths form the new words and sounds they are trying to learn. Second, is the social impact this is having on kids. A simple smile in the hallways, learning to make friends and interact with others, all of this stuff matters. We've been told to isolate and mask our kids for the past 18 months, and the isolation kids feel is real. Depression in kids is on the rise, and enough is enough. There have been very few extreme COVID cases in children. So where is the data showing the past month when Muscatine kids have been in school, in the Muscatine district, no other district, what is the data showing that COVID has been so devastating to the health of the kids that we now need to implement the mask mandate? I don't believe that that data exists. If a parent wants to send their child to school in a mask, go right ahead. I respect that choice for them and for their family. I will always stand for parental choice, and that includes parents having the option to send their children to school not masked. Thank you for your time.
Madam Secretary, I believe we're at our 30-minute mark.
Yes.
We will hold to that. That was what was printed on our agenda. The next item then on our agenda is a potential mask requirement for students and staff, which has possible action. I would invite the board at this time. What are the wishes of the board on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the motion on the table to require masks. So this is how Robert's rule. Well, if you're quiet, you will, but if you keep talking, no, we won't. We'll take a recess.
Excuse me. I'm going to be a little louder. All right? Wait. You need to understand the only way that we can discuss this is to make a motion. So this isn't a vote right now. We can't, that's the rules of the way things work. You had to make a motion, so now we can have a discussion before we have a vote. But you're yelling.
No.
We can't do anything.
Sir, do you need to?
Because you guys are being too loud.
So the next thing that I asked for, after the board has a motion on the floor, according to Robert's Rule of Order, is now we have our discussion. We are not a meeting. You are welcome to stay and listen, but we need you to be respectful. We can't have a conversation if you continue to have outbursts. And if you can't do that, then you need to step to the back. The motion on the floor is for a mask mandate. I would ask the board now what discussion they have. I believe Superintendent Christopher has some information for us.
Yeah, I will have some comments and then leave it up to you to discuss. Masks were in place all year last year until the last 5 days of school. Transmission of COVID in our schools last year was very low. While students and staff were quarantined, very few exposures led to positive cases. The vast majority of our staff and students who were COVID positive last year contracted that outside of the school environment. Our challenge last year was keeping staff in the buildings to provide in-person instruction. Last November, we moved to a virtual learning environment for 2 weeks. That was due to not having enough staff and subs to cover positions across the district. With the vaccine availability in the spring, we saw COVID positivity drop across the community and our staffing levels improved. We continually adjusted to changes relating to the spread of the disease and with the requirements and recommendations from public health officials, our medical community, and state requirements. In February, we were required to end the hybrid learning model at the secondary level. Staff adjusted to that significant instructional change with very little time. We also adjusted to the passing of House File 847, which prohibited districts from mandating masks, and we were required to immediately implement that, and that was with 5 days of school left. We have consistently communicated that we will follow the guidance of the CDC and our public health officials to the best of our ability. So what's different this year? Our instructional options are in person with the option for parents to select a virtual learning environment. We are not able to move classrooms, schools, or the district into an online environment without making up days at the end of the school year. Guidance on quarantining students and staff has changed, again, based on the recommendations from local and state public health officials. Vaccine availability has only been authorized for ages 12 and up. We also know the current variant of COVID is more contagious and infection rates for students 17 and under have risen. Currently, in Muscatine County, approximately 25% of positive cases are individuals 18 and under. Last year, that number was 12%. You break that down further, individuals 10 and under accounted for 4% of all cases last year and currently account for 12%. In contrast, the 15 to 18-year-old population accounted for 6% of cases last year, and that number is currently 5%. In tracking attendance related to COVID each week, we have seen that percentage increase from 7% of all absences to 13%. When we separate that by elementary and secondary, we see that the elementary level has 18% of their absences related to COVID, and at the secondary level, the junior and senior high, that's 9%. Staff absences have continued to rise. While the number of positive cases for staff is currently a total of 15, the number of staff out of the building has continued to rise. Many of our staff members are parents and have needed to stay home with sick children. Also, given the guidance, if a child is COVID positive, if there's a positive case in the home, there is quarantine for 10 days for that, not for school exposure, but for close contact in the home. Yesterday at the high school, we had 7 classrooms that did not have a sub. Also yesterday, at our early learning center, we had over 10 staff absent, both staff, teaching staff, and support staff. I have a statement from Angie Johnson with Trinity Muscatine, and that statement is, Muscatine County Public Health supports at the minimum a recommendation of masking in schools K-6 and encourages the CDC recommendation of universal indoor masking by all students, staff, and teachers and visitors to K-12 schools, regardless of vaccination status. Vaccination is the leading public health prevention strategy to end the COVID-19 pandemic. The CDC states vaccination for all those ages 12 and older will provide the safest environment to sustain in-person learning, as well as extracurricular activities and sports, along with maintaining the workforce needed to support our community's economic development. And again, that statement was from Angie Johnson with Trinity Muscatine. I am very appreciative of the input we've received on all sides of this issue. We've had over 1,000 comments that were recorded, as well as the comments today. This is not an easy decision, and I know that none of us want to have to be here making today. People are passionate about this, and I understand that. It's about their child, and that's where their focus should be. As a district, our focus has to be on creating the safest in-person learning environment possible for all of our students and staff. Given the current conditions and the data as it is today, it would be my recommendation that you implement a mandatory mask policy for pre-K through 6th grade until that age group has access to a vaccine. I believe that should only be during the instructional day, indoors, and not for after-school activities or other events. Staff at that level should also...
We cannot have a meeting if you continue to act this way. If you want to hear our discussion, I ask that you please be respectful. Sir, you need to step outside. You need to step outside.
Excuse me, let's be respectful. We'll listen to you. Listen, we have a procedure by law that we have to follow as a board. If you are not familiar with that procedure, I suggest you go and read that procedure first before you talk to us in a not respected way. We are not going to engage in a personal discussion like that. We as a board have a procedure that we have to follow. We have to follow that procedure legally. So listen, what you are saying, everyone has the right to say whatever he or she wants. We listen to all of you. We listen to all of you in a respectful way. So you listen to us. Exactly.
Sir, no, this is not a discussion. This is not a discussion. If you want to stay, and not between us, if you want to stay and listen to the board, you are more than welcome to do that. If you cannot be quiet and respectful, you're not going to stay. We need to have a meeting. We need to have a meeting. Clint, before you were interrupted.
Staff at that level should also mask in the presence of students. Since the beginning of the year, all of our students riding the buses in the district and our bus drivers have been required to wear masks. We have procedures in place from last year with options for students who, for medical reasons, cannot wear a mask. We will also continue to provide masks for all students who need them and specialized masks when necessary as well. And that is for students who are hearing impaired. It has a clear window to see their mouth. Should this be your decision, we will need to allow parents an opportunity to make decisions to move students to a virtual classroom. I would also suggest a grace period for implementation. We need to allow time for staff and the parents to work through the logistics and talk to their students. I would recommend that the implementation be effective Wednesday, September 22nd of next week. Conditions may change again, as they did last year. As before, we will adjust accordingly. Regardless, once vaccines are available to all of our students, I believe at that time a mask requirement would no longer be necessary. And with that, I leave it open to your discussion.
What other discussion would the board have?
Tammy? Tammy?
Sir, you are not, this is not your meeting. This is a meeting of the board. If you would like to stay, you may listen, you may not participate. You may not participate in our meeting. Sir, I'm asking that you please be quiet so that we may have a discussion. We're not having a discussion because you all continue to interrupt. Sir, I need you to be quiet. I need you to let us have our discussion. Don't act like a student that is sitting in the back of the room. What other topics would the board discuss?
Tammy, this is Denny.
Can
you hear me?
Yes.
I guess I'd just like to thank the people who are participated today. You know, we had over 1,000 responses to the survey, both for and against the masking. But I know we as a board have a responsibility to our total district, as Clint said, to our staff and our total student body. And our ultimate factors involved, we need to look at the science, the recommendations of the CDC, our community health our community health doctors, and our local medical professionals. So I guess that's where I stand on this, and that, you know, we need to look out for the health and safety of all our students.
I will add.
Thank you, Denny.
I will add to that as well. I do have to say, it's a lot of anger, and we're here to have a discussion, and you want to have that discussion, and you want to hear our thoughts, I thought. And so can we have the same respect and quietness that we provided you while you spoke? So I'm going to give you my 2 minutes, or close to. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, why can't you just hear me out? How do you even know what I believe or what I don't if you don't listen? I made a motion because that's what we have to do to move this forward, right? And you're not going to like what I'm going to say, but at least listen to me for a second. I volunteered my time for 6 years on this board to help the students, my kids, my grandkids, the staff that I know. I volunteered my time. I've been up here for 6 years. So give me just a touch of respect to listen. I do want to listen to you as well. I promise. And I have. And if any of you have ever contacted me before, I've listened. But just hear me out. And it's okay. You're not going to like what I'm going to say, but just hear me out, okay? So I'm going to start with, we have been very consistent following CDC recommendations in the law that we have been applied to. And we are doing that same thing right now. And last year, it helped. It helped the community It helped our kids, it helped our staff, it helped. I believe that it helped. I have spoken to principals, I have spoken to health nurses in the district, and it has helped. There are more cases of COVID in some of our elementaries than there were last year, right? So just please, 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 just listen to me. Just listen. Listen. We gave you the respect to listen. Just listen, right? I know what's against what you're saying, but do you not want to hear? I mean, we can just take a vote if you'd like. So it's a health concern for us. It's worked. We're being consistent. There are two other things I want to say. One is, as a board, we have a policy and there are regulations within the district requiring dress code, right? So, no, listen to me. Listen to me. Kids are required to wear shoes. Do you want to send your kids without shoes? Hang on. Hang on. Listen to me. Listen to me. What? I'm not even done. So we have safety issues with clothing, right? Shoes are required to be worn in the district because of that, right? We have, our first line is no midriffs, no spaghetti tops, no other things, right? Hang on, just listen to me. So those things,
you know what? You know what? Let me say something. We sat down half hour and listened to each one of you. We didn't say one word. No, I work with you. Yes, I work. Listen, I work for the citizens of Muscatine. Yes, you are right. Okay? And I listen to the citizens and I respect them and I expect respect back from you. My friend who spent 6 years working and serving our school district is trying to talk to you and you have no respect for him. You are not even letting him continue his sentence. Please, let's be respectful of each other, whether we agree with each other or not.
okay, just
He can't finish because you're still talking.
We understand. Let me tell you something. You said things, you took your turn. Whether I agree with you or not, I respected what you said. Okay, we are saying the same thing. Let's listen to each other, because if we continue this way, guess what? We're not going to come up into any kind of decision by keeping interrupting each other and yelling at each other. All what we're asking you for, just respect. Whether you agree or not, just respect. Let him finish his sentence, and then we move on. Thank you. Thank you for calling me. Thank you for doing that.
Sir.
I gave you respect half hour. You said whatever you want to say. It's our turn right now to discuss this based on the procedure and based on the law. So for calling me a hypocrite, I would say thank you. Thank you. Come on,
Sir, I'm going to ask
Learn
you
with respect. Thank
one
you.
more time. Please, no more outbursts. And if you do, I'm going to ask that you step to the back. We are trying to have a discussion. Aaron, go ahead.
Thank you. So, one, we have a dress code and a mandated policy that we do follow. Not that it's always followed, but that we do follow, right? That is one thing that the board policy states. That is why we're here, right? The second thing I'm going to say in relation to supporting what the CDC recommends is that I have a father who's worked at a company here for 40 years in maintenance, and I asked him about this and what he thought. And he likened it to hard hats, safety glasses, those types of safety requirements. Please, please, please. Please, please. Please just let me finish. Please. We didn't interrupt you. Just let me finish. And his comment was when he had a difficult decision that related to safety, he erred on the side of safety, not on the side of non-safety. And so with that, we can move forward. You can tell why I will vote to support the mandate, but that is why.
Would any other board members like to share their thoughts on this discussion?
I would. As a parent, past educator, and professional person, I strive to look at all sides of issues because there are always other views, to come up with solutions. It is because of those views that I have felt compelled to make a statement on my stance concerning masks and mandates. I have two important personal reasons as well as a whole school district's worth of reasons. As a parent, your child is the most important thing to you. My daughter, at 6 years old, did not have a choice when she was diagnosed with leukemia. Instead, it chose her. And not the slower acting kind that most kids get, but the fast acting for adults get. Masks became part of our lives for a full year. It was our new normal. She knew and understood the reasons the bad guy cells were attacking her body, and we had to wait until enough good guy cells could overcome them. There is no magic vaccine, just a lot of chemo and radiation. She even could pronounce the medicines better than us. She adapted. We all adapted to our new normal. She and others in her ward and all the parents and doctors wore masks and no questions asked. She had 1 semester of kindergarten when she became ill. She had help while in hospital with school, as well as a kindergarten teacher at home. Once again, we all adapted. She went back to school for the 2nd semester of 1st grade, a whole school year out. And we looked to her school kids so that they could see this bald-headed, mask-wearing kid ahead of time. The kids adapted to her. She was one of the very lucky ones because many of those cancer kids did not make it. You may say, but how does this compare to COVID? She wore that mask because she understood the bad guy cells concept, because the adults and the doctors were her comfort to know that they told her the truth about why she needed to wear a mask, even though it was not fun at all to wear them. She adapted. I am happy to say, due to doctors, science, and including mask wearing, she is now 35 years old and happily married to a school teacher. Second of all, in January of this year, I lost my elderly aunt to COVID. They were just starting to give out the shots, and she got it before she could get fully vaccinated. Hospitals are full of COVID patients right now. You may not hear about it unless you have a loved one that you have to go to the emergency room and cannot go in to see them due to COVID. I have. You cannot even wait in the emergency room due to restriction protocols at our local hospital. And these are not just elderly, but our children as well. Trust me, I know the land of disability and hardships of many. We can work to adapt to those with special concerns. Personally, I am deaf in one ear, and I wear a hearing aid. I wear glasses. I do not like any of it, but I do it so that I can hear and see. I must wear these things. I do not like wearing masks, and yes, it can be difficult to hear with a mask on, but I have no problem trying to figure out a way to adapt to those obstacles if it means that I am helping to keep us safe as possible and others. I have been fascinated, but I wear a mask because of the variant. I need some comments that said things like, "This has gone on way too long," and you are right. It has been so long. But that in itself is not a reason to dismiss the need for masks because of COVID. Doesn't care how long it is around. Therefore, I do not believe the fight against COVID is over yet within our schools and our community. So we need to move forward on a type of mandate that allows us to stop it in our community, and ask that we work together to solve the issue and not tear each other against those decisions. I have many friends and family on both sides of this issue, and I hear you all. But my past experiences with masks and disease and science helped me with this decision as a board member. I am for a mandate for masks for our schools. And I make no apology. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You were very kind. You were very kind when I was reading that. And it is appreciative that you do not do that because I can't catch you when you do that. Please. I cannot answer your
Sir,
question.
stop interrupting. Stop interrupting, please. Stop it, then just move. Please stop interrupting. Sir, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would ask that this gentleman please be removed from the room. This is not a personal issue. He needs to go. Thank you. Would you like to join him? No. Karen, I'm sorry, Karen, before you were so rudely interrupted, are you done? Do you have more? Were you able to finish? Does anyone else?
I just need to finish. I just need to finish with one last thing, please. One last thing, please. One last thing, please.
Are you interested in listening to the rest of our conversation? We're not ready to vote and it's our meeting. So you can either patiently wait quietly or you are free to leave whenever you would like. Go ahead, Karen.
Thank you. I would like to finish, please. I read all of your comments online. I made sure that I did that. I've looked at a lot of science. And do not think that I have heard today that some folks believe that we have not looked at the science, that we have not looked at all of the information that we need to underneath what are the guidance. Therefore, it is not going to continue to help me or us to be able to keep on speaking if you guys keep on doing this. I really want to be able to hear what we have to say. It is difficult when this is done this way. Thank you.
Do you want to say anything? You don't have to. It's up to you. And I think John does when you're done.
So, as a former administrator, that's fine. That's your opinion. I approve that. But you need to. Okay, thank you.
Sir, I've asked you 3 times to be quiet. If you cannot be quiet, you can leave the room. If you don't want to listen to our conversation, I would suggest you leave.
This is not civil discourse. This is not something that we would tolerate with our kids, right? You guys all want to be, parents are the primary educators of their kids. You've already said that. You've already said, and I agree with, that parents are primary educators of their kids, right? Parents are primary educators of their kids. I understand that. I believe that 100%. But we have to be able to have civil discourse, people. We have to be able to talk things out without hating each other, without being mad, without I'm just saying, I'm not lecturing. But there is no civil discourse here. They're screaming one way and we're trying to talk. I will tell you why I believe the way I want to believe if you want to hear it. If you don't want to hear why I believe what I want to believe, then
And
what? I was elected, we were elected to try to represent the entire community. Right?
I think it would be best if the board takes a recess and everybody takes a deep breath. So,
Tammy.
and we will be back. Scott, I think we're ready. I don't need to wait till people come in to discuss, do I? Can I start?
Yeah, I would start.
Doors are open.
All right, the board has had a recess, and we're back. We'll finish the discussion. Mike, I think you were the last one that was speaking, and I don't know if you got to finish your conversation
I didn't.
or your statement, but I would ask that if you would share that with the board.
I will, Tammy. I think as long as people can be quiet, and I'll let everybody come back in. So I don't want people to think that I'm trying to them hear me.
Yeah, it's Mike. He's in it.
So as I was saying, I think that what we've tried to do all along is we've tried to be as consistent. I agree with Denny that we've tried to follow the CDC rules, our local. It's been mentioned that we're not doctors, we're not nurses, we're not health advisors, and I fully support that. I'm not. I will admit that. But that's why I rely on our experts. So when our health department gives us a recommendation, I take that they are experts. When I see that we've tripled the amount of kids that are sick, that worries me. So I think that we were voted to support our community, as I said before, and I think that that's what we're trying to do. Understand, this is a hot topic, right? It doesn't mean that we're right or wrong either way. That just because it doesn't mean that I don't like you or you should like me because one thing happens or doesn't happen. I would say that right now our recommendation is a mask mandate the way it looks like it was K-12. I don't think that we should support that. I do think that we should modify that to say K-6 or pre-K-6, and I think it should only be until people can be vaccinated. We know that
We took a recess so that we could hold order in the room.
Please understand, people. Please understand. Please understand. We will continue. If we cannot be heard, we're going to have to exit again. We're going to have to clear the room again. We don't want to do that. We just want this to be heard and to do our business. All right. So if you'll let us work, if you'll let us talk, and not get loud, so we'd have to clear the room again and go back out and then come back in. Thank you.
Mike, I will amend my motion to only include pre-K through 6th and the other recommendations that Mr. Christopher has recommended.
I appreciate that.
The amendment on the table then is to amend the motion to be a pre-K through 6 mandate. Is there, Karen, I'm going to look to you. You originally seconded that motion. Is that amendment satisfactory with you?
It is. I amend it. Thank you.
I also believe that should only be until a vaccination is available pre-K-6. I am not mandating that people get the vaccination, but at that point, everybody has a choice.
Sir, 3 times. Next time, I'm just going to ask you to leave. Could we please just remove that individual from the room? Yep, that one right there that's speaking right now. Out. Thank you. All right, so the motion has been amended.
I do think it's also very important, and I think that Mr. Christopher gave me a little bit of comfort in the fact that we do have children that have different needs throughout our district, and I did see the fact that there is a face covering that's clear so that we can see those for children that do need to see the mouths. I appreciate that fact of it. So I will tell you that one of the things that as I stated before, Mr. Bowenbrick, I'm sorry to call you out, but I do believe that the parents are primary educators of their kids, right? That's what it is. But on the other side of it, we have to look out for all parents and all kids. So every parent. I'll talk to you one at the end of this. I agree with you. So we also have, throughout our history, we've also faced other things that have happened, or other things that we try to keep the public safe. We have seatbelt laws. We have speed limits. We have all of it.
Sir, you're not being helpful.
I'm fine. I don't need to speak.
Okay.
Well, I would like to take a couple minutes also and state my opinion too. As an educator of 35 years, that I teach basically for the past 35 years at the college level, and as someone who came from a family that value education, I would say that when I made my decision to run for school board 6 years ago, I made my decision based on the interest of our school district, the students, the teachers, the employee, the staff, everybody. So as a school board member, I represent, or at least I feel I represent, the interests of our school district. I do understand also that sometimes we might disagree. I do understand when you put your name in public, not everybody gonna like you. I do understand that when you put your name in public, some people might don't like you. But at the end, my guidelines are will be always the interests of our students and our districts, teachers, and everybody. I spent, I don't know how many hours in the past 2 days reading every message that we receive from our community, whether parents, whether students, whether they are community members, whether even staff members. And based on their feedback, and based on my belief in science, and based on someone who teaches statistics, and I know exactly what statistic means, and I know how people can twist sometimes the fact, I basically will be in support of this mandate. Now, saying that is very simple, saying that we, as elected officials, our number one responsibility to make sure that the kids in our schools, the teachers, the staff, and everybody are working in a safe environment. I'm not an expert in the medical field, perhaps nor any of us here in this room in the medical field. But we know that we have some guidelines that are provided to us by the expert, by the CDC. And as we read those recommendations, and as we read their feedbacks and their requirements, updated requirements, obviously we as school board needs to act. I know for sure the day I was elected that one day I have to make a tough decision. Yes, I mean, anybody in the public life, and I'm hoping each one of you will take a chance and run for a public office, and you see what it means to be holding a public office. You are required to make a decision, right? Based on what you have, based on the facts, based on the science, and based on the recommendations of the expert in the field. So for that reason, as I mentioned again, I will be in support of that.
Toby, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can
Toby,
you hear me?
would you like to, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you would like to say something, we'd be happy to hear from you as well.
Well, thanks, Tammy, and to everybody there. I'm really sad right now because this isn't who we are. And I'm a parent and I'm a school board member. I'm a member of the community and I recognize some of the names, some of the faces. And I'm really sad. And the only thing that I want to remind us is it says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Tammy, that's all I got to say.
Thanks, Toby, and thank you for joining from afar. Is there anyone else on the board that would like to has a statement to make? I will say that I too have read through all the comments online up to 9 a.m. At 11:06 p.m. last night, I stopped at 1,003, I believe was about what was registered. So I appreciate those of you that took time to submit those. I too will be voting in favor of the motion that is on the table. I would ask if anyone has any other discussion. Is Denny still on the line with us? Does Denny, are you, or do you have anything else that you wanted to add? I don't want to exclude you, and I know you've already made a statement.
Yes, I also want to mention that I stayed up the last 2 nights till midnight or after reading all the comments of all the participants in the online survey. And, didn't get much sleep after that as I struggled to make my decision. And, again, like I said before, ultimately, we as a board need to follow the science, the recommendations of the CDC, the community health, and our local medical professionals. And so ultimately, I'll be in support of this.
Okay. The motion on the floor then is for a mask requirement. The amendment was to do for pre-K through 6. And I believe what I heard the board say is that they will like to, can we just one at a time start taking people out that are loud? Do you want to hear the rest of our conversation? Do we need to start over? So let's start that one in the orange. We cannot get our business done. Sir, you need to leave. Sorry. All of our children show up with no masks. Call first. 90% of Muscatine because we never touched that problem.
Clint, I have a question for the superintendent, please. Is there options for these parents that seem that they don't want to be able to wear a mask? First of all, what happens? Because if they don't wear a mask, and if they have options for a different type of schooling. See this? See this? See this? if I'm gonna be able to have my question and I'm gonna be able to hear it, please, honey, guys, I really would appreciate it if you could let me be able to hear the question, answer to it.
Karen, we do have a process in place from last year that we would implement so that we can look at waivers, medical waivers for that.
Yep.
Can I ask those questions, please? It's not the audience's job to ask the question. It's my job to ask the question, please. I can ask questions. Please let me do that, sir. Thank you. What are the protocols that you said that was in place last year that are we doing for this year? What are the steps that are
Parents worked
necessary,
with
please?
building principals last year in looking at those waivers, whether for medical reasons or students with special needs, and those were handled at the building level.
Is there any other discussion? Otherwise, the motion on the floor, and I would call for the vote.
So before we do that, is the motion to have the masks for K6 through until vaccines are available?
Correct, Denny.
Okay, and does that also includes the staff members, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And the board could certainly revisit that topic before that if they chose to do so.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, I would ask all those in favor to please signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed?
Toby says no.
And the motion carries. Our next item is for adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
A second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries. Thank you.